And so begins another day of reading reviews of anime that people don't like. Y'all motherfuckers are funny. What? Fuck are you talking about? Alright. So last time I ended up going to looking at Sword Art Online 2, and it happened to be done by a certain person. And I was like, alright, what about Shield Hero? And I found the same person, and I liked both of their reviews so much that I ended up personally reviewing their reviews for anything that is a lower score of 5, essentially. And so far, I've been enjoying myself because I enjoy the way this guy writes, and I enjoy that this guy is not shy about shitting on something that he does not like. I think it's mad funny. But if you take personal offense because somebody doesn't like an anime that you do, well, I think everybody needs to touch some grass at that point. Just saying. So let's start with this one. I don't know this show. I don't recognize it. Girls Beyond the Wasteland. Shoujo Tachi wa Kyoya Meisasu is a series about finding oneself in a direction in life no matter how far off the beaten path it might be. Buntaru? Who names their character Buntaru? What? That's not a real name. Didn't I have this zoomed in before? I think I did. Let me see. That's better. Buntaru is a high school student who had a talent for writing but no real direction in life or any plans for the future. His classmate Sayuki Kuroda notices his talent, decides to help him find a way to use it properly by enlisting him in her Bishoujo game development. That is not where I thought that was going. When Buntaro is cornered in the men's bathroom at school by Sayuki, he is surprised when he is asked out what he thinks is a date, and even further surprised when he finds out that it is not a date but a job interview. Reluctantly agreeing, the two start recruiting other members for their team, but they will learn more about game creation or life itself along the way. What? Oh, here he is. Oh, shit. Alright. Is everybody ready? Wet your lips, baby. It's time. Please don't tell me this is any indication of Romeo Tanaka's future as a writer. It should be said that I have had a lot of anticipation for Kyoya when the visual novel was first announced a couple years ago, being the first big project from Romeo, and quite some time the man responsible for Cross Channel, arguably one of the best and most well-written visual novels. I don't know what Cross Channel is, chat. I'd expected something more than the nonsense it actually turned out to be. It seems Romeo may have gotten jealous of Maruto, a fellow former VN writer's success with Saikano. Saikano! I know that one. That's a visual novel? No, it's a light novel. Saikano is very good. One of my favorite shows of all time. It's How to Raise a Boring Girlfriend. And felt the need to also get a piece of the tired high schoolers making eroge cash cow of a genre. Yawn. Now, to be fair, I only know of two shows that follow this plot line. 2. And I am pleading the 5th on one of them. Alright. Next. And that normally wouldn't be such a bad thing if it was coming from someone other than Romeo. But the biggest issue is that Kyoya is a hot pile of garbage, even when compared to something completely run-of-the-mill like Saikano. Where to begin? I don't think my Saikano is run-of-the-mill. I thought it was pretty good. I liked it. I mean, the main character is extremely bland, but that's the whole point of the character. Her expressions are hilarious. In the sense that she is not a trope at all. She does not have any trope. There's a dent in my wall that looks like a kitchen knife. What the fuck? What is up with that? Why does it look like that? Dude, there's a dent in my wall that looks like Diose's knife. Oh my god. Alright, where was I? Where to begin? One could simply write a checklist of all the obnoxious tropes and cliches Kyoya is permeated with, and you would get a pretty good idea of how brainless the show can be. For one, I'm getting real sick of anime where the most beautiful girl in school is somehow, for some reason, secretly an otaku. Facts. Facts. Yep. As if only the super attractive and the super ugly can be interested in anime and eroge, while someone like Buntaro, a completely ordinary guy, is presented as the outsider for not being on one of these two extremes. Not only is this absolutely silly and insulting to anime fans, but it is a very obvious attempt to manipulate certain viewers into making them feel special and unique for identifying with Buntaro. He is just your typical high school student after all, just like me, and all the cute girls around him are hardcore otaku too. Awesome. Allow me to groan. I also want to die every time there is an onsen scene where the female characters compare and grab each other's boobs, as if the audience is comprised solely of 11-year-old boys who just entered puberty. This is true. This is facts. Chat, I guarantee of all the anime you've watched, you can pick out this specific scene more times than you can count on your hands. Am I going to ask you to do that? No. But you could if you really wanted to. I ain't going to stop you. Koya goes the extra mile in being asinine. The characters acting out in eroge scenes in real life is practice, which is probably a good indication that they are in dire need of mental help. There are even your typical scenes where the group rushes to meet the deadline for their doujin game and succeeds with about 0.2 seconds to spare. The characters passing the game disc along like a baton and screaming at each other in encouragement, "Go, go!" Does this stuff still appeal to people? Actual human beings? I've never seen that before. I don't know, that sounds kind of funny to me. Take care to prepare for your wacky antics that ensue as our beloved protagonist is locked in his room and forced to write an unreasonable amount of text, sleeping by accident and then being encouraged by the rest of the club, dressed in Meido outfits, including Atomu, who is actually a boy. Funny! Nice joke! Lol. I didn't laugh a single time. Alright, I can no longer laugh for the rest of the review. I'm going to put on my serious face. No more laughing. For a show that is primarily comedy, there being nothing that is actually funny is a bit of an issue. I did, however, laugh at the scene later on in this episode where Buntaro passes out in the bathtub and is later seen lying on his bed covered in bandages. What? Now wait a minute. Wait, you can't. Wait a minute. He just contradicted himself. He said he did not laugh a single time, and then he said he did laugh at a scene later in this in the same episode. Wait a minute. Reviewer? You lied. And now I lied because I laughed, because I don't even understand what happened there. Plot holes in my review? More likely than you think. Where am I? None of the characters are particularly interesting or compelling and are often defined by a single trait. Ando is a fujoshi who thinks everything in the world is gay. Atomu is a misogynist who hates the normies. Yuka is a whiny brat, and Kuroro is your typical kudere devoid of feeling or personality. Buntaro should, however, at least be given some credit for actually having some personality and not being just a worthless, spineless blob of nothing for viewers to self-insert into, as is the case with just about every single anime of this type. Yuki is also an adorable little lady. It's just too bad the visual novel is planned to be all ages, as we will not be able to see the protagonist bone her in the full game, and that may just be the biggest crime of all. Thank you for that. Thank you for adding that to your review. The romance, or whatever you can call the show's half-hearted attempts at romance, is, not surprisingly, completely juvenile. You'll regularly be witness to crap like Yuka running away in tears, yelling, "You jerk!" repeatedly, all because Buntaro had the nerve to politely respond to someone asking him a question. Or she'll run away crying like a big baby, nearly getting run over by an oncoming train because drama, simply due to her not being able to perfect her lines and having to meet a time limit just like every other damn character has and has been struggling with for the entire show. Someone clearly never grew up past their elementary school years. Considering how one-dimensional most of the characters are, there is little reason to care about their struggles or the potential demise of their doujin group. It presents itself poorly as a comedy, and then on occasion it decides it wants to make us feel something. It doesn't quite work like that. Drama must serve some kind of purpose, and it must be built up towards gradually over the course of the story. Here it comes across as nothing but haphazard and unnecessary, and does nothing but make the anime an even bigger chore to watch. I don't give a donkey's poo-poo about some insipid melodrama. You can listen to me, alright? This is what I mean. What sane human being utters the sentence, "I don't give a donkey's poo-poo." Who does that? There's no human alive. This man's gone insane from the amount of shit he has consumed through his life. That he's writing sentences like that. And I doubt anyone else watching the show is either. I'll drop the words rival eroge group and you can already have a good guess of where the final episodes go, and it's nowhere interesting to be sure. Koya can at times feel like Romeo stroking his ego. There's a fair bit of self-referential dialogue, i.e. how becoming an eroge writer will open paths to industries such as anime and light novels, which almost felt as he was proposing that Kyoya can teach the audience how to become a cool, successful guy like him. Perhaps that was not his intention, but he should have at least had the hindsight to see that people familiar with his work may interpret it that way. I don't know about that one. This issue is also compounded by the lack of any of the insider knowledge and commentary you would expect from someone who has been involved in the industry for over 15 years. Kyoya is completely banal and sometimes false interpretation of the eroge industry, and it seems Romeo is satisfied with that. This could have been the eroge equivalent of Shirobako, you know. It's been a while since I've seen it in such an enormous waste of potential. I've never watched Shirobako, but I heard it's really good. I heard it's a very accurate, like, portrayal of the anime industry as an anime. And it's actually, like, really well done. But I've never watched it. I feel like he's really pissed that the VN isn't horny. No. I don't think he's pissed that it's not horny. However, that is definitely on the list of complaints based on this review. The art is not quite poor enough to be firmly labeled bad, but it is certainly not something your eyes will take any pleasure in seeing. The whole thing feels very cheap and low budget, lacking in any noticeable animation. It fills mostly of close-up shots of the characters making angry or sad faces, or sitting still and talking as if they were programmed to. There were, however, some neat Easter eggs during the characters' initial trips to Akihabara, with plenty of real-life eroge, aka Baldur Sky Zero, Shari no Kuni, and Pretty X Cation, hiding subtly on a bookshelf. I could only wish there was more of that. Something to make the whole otaku thing at least feel slightly authentic, and less like the sham that it actually is. It's quite clear that Kyoya's anime is little other than an advertisement for the source material. When you take into account the timing of the anime, it finished airing just a day before the release of the visual novel. Do you really want to watch a 12-episode long advertisement? I doubt it. Having finished reading the trial for the VN a few days ago, while I can say the VN is a much improved experience and with far better artwork and production values, it still wasn't anything overly impressive. The visual novel is written in pace like it wants to be anime, and yet the actual anime, the only exposure many people will have to the series, is hot garbage. I really don't know what Romero had in mind with this thing. While it remains to be seen how much of a blame should be put on Romeo versus the anime teams, the end result is still a foul, rancid mess that is just not worth anyone's time. Do yourself a favor, instead of watching something like Showa Genroku Rakugo Shinjo, a recent anime that doesn't completely suck. It's awfully hard to find ones that don't. I see. What was the character? He said? Yuki. Who's Yuki? You're Yuki. Small. Oh, it's Sato Satomi. I know her! Kuroda Sayuki. Atomu Kai. Wait, who's our main character? This is Buntaro. Wow, what a handsome man he is. He kind of reminds me of Kyon, just a bit. Anyway. Interesting. Alright. 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 Infinite Strato, Steins Gate. Genshiken, Saka Iroha, Touch, Watamote, Raintown, Susuno Gagarintia, Ore Imoto. I got a 6. You know, part of me wants to read that, but also not. You know, I kind of want to read it because it got a 6, and I'm pretty sure the only reason it has a fairly respectable rating, all things considered, is due to the nature of the first season being actually good, but then after that, it, yeah, turns into this. Orimo 2 prequel. Well, I mean, this is the second season, isn't it? Oh, I think it is. A 9, huh? A 9. Okay. Let's see. Everybody ready? Here we go. Orimo is something of a controversial history, and it's not too much of a surprise. It pushes the notion that wanting to bone your perhaps non-existent sister is perfectly fine. Mind you, there is nothing inherently wrong with incestuous themes when handled maturely, but Orimo is not mature. It has no intentions of being so. Nothing inherently wrong with incestuous themes when handled maturely. Bro, I just don't know why you wrote that. I just don't know why you wrote that. Why would you write that? What? What do you mean handle maturely? That sentence is like an oxymoron, dude. Self-report, yeah, fucking right. Christ. Alright, moving on. And yet there's still more to Oremo than the incest appeal. The incest is not an appeal. Trust me. The first season provided a social commentary on otaku culture and its perception in everyday society. It focused on characters that behave and react like humans beings do, sometimes even at the cost of likability. When Kyosuke expressed any interest in his sister around others, he was treated like a pervert and smacked upside the head. It's almost wanted you to feel that there was something wrong with Kyosuke and Kirito's growing relationship. Not entirely, perhaps, but there were always deeper, more intelligent themes like, hey, this dude likes his sister. Okay, I'm gonna be real, Ichet. I actually like the first season of Oremo because I thought the direction it was going was neat, and then as most people are already aware, it falls apart pretty significantly. But the first season wasn't really bad. I thought the first season had a lot of promise. Like I had fun with it. I watched it many times, but then the second season ruined it. Oremo's second season is none of this. There is no social commentary. There are no believable characters. Whatever the series had to set itself apart from other ecchi or harem shows is now gone. The characters are relentlessly crippled by this downfall, and ISA receives the full extent of it. She was characterized as being level-headed and diligent in the first season, the proverbial model student, albeit with a tendency to berate anyone she sees as odd. Where is this in the second season? Absolutely nowhere. ISA has become victim to the yandere stereotype, cranked up to 11. Knife and crazy eyes included, for no conceivable reason. She also develops and acts on her feelings for Kyosuke, entirely contradicting her belief that Kirino's happiness is most important. The most believable character in the series has been reduced to wrapping paper. Kirino is a love-or-hate character, and which side you lean towards, second season is not going to do much to change your mind. There's plenty more of the rampant complaining that she was so known for in the first season, including an episode comprising of her lying to Kyosuke, insulting him, and proceeding to slap him across the face. I could never really get myself to hate her, though, because while she embodies everything wrong with teenage girls, there are also signs that she has remorse for her actions. That and the fact that she's voiced by Ayana Takutatsu. Don't say that. Don't say that. I'll ban you. There was no incest appeal in the first season, I promise you. Alright? It was a little weird, but it was fine. It just got really weird in the second season. It was like the first season... the first season he started dating the goth girl. You know? Like, that was good. I like that. He started dating the goth girl. And then it all fell apart. Why did it all fall apart, dude? You will likely develop a more positive opinion of Kuroneko. That's her, by the way. Rurigoku. For the middle third of the story, she's made the principal character a love interest too, and unlike the rest of the female cast, Kirino excluded, whose feelings seemed entirely forced and superficial, Kuroneko's feelings for Kyosuke are explored in detail. Her love is genuine, it doesn't feel shoehorned in to add an extra number to the harem, and that is perhaps the greatest compliment an anime like this can receive. But her story arc eventually blunders about. It is marred, like most things, by superfluous drama at the end. The end of Kuroneko's arc simply consists of Kirino screaming at Kuroneko for the entire episode. Worse, Kuroneko's motivations are not even established once the conflict is finally resolved. All we get are a few ambiguous statements which further contradict her actions. What an awful note to end it on. Kuroneko was a great character in Season 1. I don't actually remember like anything that happens in Season 2 because I watched it once and never again. That's nothing to say that everything has gone wrong. A few of the episodes are legitimately good. Kuroneko's lighthearted episodes exemplify the good point of the series and are wholly adorable, while Saori's backstory provides interesting glimpses into the life of an otaku while fleshing out her character in equal measure. The show is plenty capable of being fun, and just regularly chooses not to be. The ending will leave many scratching their heads. It might even be misleading to call it an ending, as it wraps up nothing and it shamelessly expects the audience to follow up with the OVAs for answers. Still, it's a nice way to detail Kyosuke and Kirito's relationship as children and shed some light as to why they act the way they do. Suddenly, Kirito doesn't seem half as infuriating as she used to. Technicals, considering Oremo 2 is an impressive anime. It looks better than the previous season, which is already impressive in itself. There are a few scenes where the artwork manages a different quality and the depth of the field effect between character and scenery achieves, and giving the show a more professional look. The facial expressions are also drawn and animated fluidly. which serves well to enhance the comedic scenes and portray the emotions of each character. The sound is nothing spectacular, but does the job perfectly fine. Occasionally, the soundtrack works to the story's advantage, and scenes like you'd otherwise feel hackneyed, the fuck, are instead able to stir up a few emotions. On the other hand, the opening is a generic J-pop song that are almost entirely forget almost immediately as it ends. The ending sequences are pleasant, though perhaps not as much as the animation of the songs. For the variety, it's hard to argue against the new ending of every episode. Oimo 2 is not a bad anime, but it is a bad sequel. Whatever you found appealing in the first season is likely to be gone here. It is made to be palatable solely to harem fans and incest fetishists, and those stuck somewhere in between are bound to find this season lacking any sort of cohesion. A good sequel aims to improve, not to throw away everything that made it unique in the first place. Oimo 2 is a fundamentally broken anime. There's a show, the episode 2 of season 2 is called The Big Brother I Trusted and Sent Off. Can't get this addicted to a mobile dating sim and commit sexual harassment. What? What? It's a fucking long title. Episode guide. Let me see. More videos. The Oni-chan I trusted and sent off can't get this hooked on portable Bishoujo games and start sexually harassing me. What? What? Okay, so for those of you that don't know, here's the thing. Orimo Season 1 ends with Kirino going off to, like, America. But that's not actually, like, what happens. But they didn't know they were going to get a second season. So they ended up having a 3-part OVA that actually, like, does it proper. Like, I guess, no. Kirino goes to America, but in the anime she doesn't. But they didn't realize, like, they thought they were going to end it there, and then we're going to get another season, so, but they did get another season, so they made a 3-part OVA that, like, oh, by the way, Kirino actually did go to America, and now it's basically Kyosuke hanging out with Kuroneko, and those 3 episodes they develop the relationship between those 2 characters, which is great, and then as you can see, she comes back in the second season, and then, it all falls apart, woo, fall apart, disintegrate, destroy, death, Mortis. America! Alright. Data Live. Boobs, explosions, and cute girls. That's all I needed to read. That's literally all I needed. Little busters. The visual novel's better. Tamako Market, 6. I don't know what any of this is. Milky Homes. That show is fucking ridiculous, dude. Kitamari Sketch, that's fun. Shouju Senshi Psychic Wars. It's 1 episode, huh? 3.11. Ukyo Retsu, a surgeon. I'm not logging in. Treats a mysterious old woman for a mysterious cancer. The growth turns out to be a messenger from the ancient past of Japan heralding a demonic invasion of the earth. Ukyo must go back in time to fight a race of ancient demons. Have you ever witnessed a man punch cancer in the face? Me neither, until I watched Psychic Wars. The above may sound like a scene mistakenly taken out of context, but do not be fooled. This is an anime that takes itself very seriously. It is an anime so atrociously bad on every level that solitary confinement may be considered a more pleasurable experience. Perhaps if I were not some kind of passive-aggressive masochist who finds amusement in dreadful anime, I would have attempted to hang myself in order to free my mind of this abomination. Welcome to Toei Animation's brilliant chef d'oeuvre, Psychic Wars. Hold on. I just kind of, like, realized... like, something important, you know? Huh. There we go. There's like so much dead room over here. He just doesn't do anything. So I need to like, let me just, you know. Perfect. Yes, okay, good. Much better. Where was I? Writing a proper synopsis for this anime is about as difficult as writing a master's thesis. Seen as absolutely nothing in the story makes sense to begin with. It is after the startling discovery of living cancer that Dr. Ukyo suddenly finds himself standing outside of a car in the middle of nowhere, beckoned to an abandoned shack by the wind growling at him, literally. Inside, he finds an idol which awakens Super Saiyan abilities inside of him after many hideously animated explosions and encouragement from a mysterious voice. Why was he there in the first place? Why is he given these powers? What logical connection does the scene have to the previous one? Who knows? Maybe it was just too deep and profound for my oblivion mind to comprehend. The rest of the story makes about as much sense as anything before, with Ukyo incoherently being teleported to an ancient Earth, colored in sepia, truly magnificent artistic design. Cancer head crabs jumping on him, while he makes homoerotic noises, a race of time-traveling ogres aspiring to rule the world, and Ukyo punching one of said ogres in the testicles. There becomes a point where the viewer starts to wonder what the fuck they are even watching. It's around the scene where Ukyo's naked body is prominently displayed on the balcony that the entire experience begins to feel like a horrifying nightmare, the kind that no amount of therapy will ever erase from your mind. This show sounds powerful. Psychic War's romance subplot is also revoltingly terrible. As is customary for this anime, there is no development in the relationship between Ukyo and his nurse Fuyuko. It is something that simply happens, no explanation is given as to how they fell in love with each other, as there is no reason for the viewer to care even the slightest bit about their feelings. It seems that in the world of Psychic Wars, fundamental narrative steps are irrelevant. Instead, complacency is found through the duplication of abysmal B-movies, marked by the two hugging under the sunset while cheesy music plays in the background. And in order to produce even more cringeworthy melodrama, his love interest just so happens to be the antagonist that the entire film was excessively foreshadowing. I bet you were never expecting such a shocking revelation. I forgot to mention, expect spoilers in these reviews. Ukyo is one of the most bland characters of any anime, a Gary stew with absolutely no defining features besides his Super Saiyan abilities. Is he a sympathetic character that unfortunately fell victim to the abominable writing, or is he simply there to seem cool and progress events along? Who knows? It's not like Psychic Wars ever cared about its characterization in the first place. The dialogue is expressed through one of the worst dubs I have ever heard in my life. Not a single character sounds decent, nor do the voice actors even attempt to convey emotion through the dialogue. Ukyo sounds like a disgruntled man painfully forced to read the lines of something he knows is awful. His tone remains entirely identical throughout the film, no matter whether the scene be emotional or action-based. Fuyuko sounds horrid as well, but the side characters are easily the worst offender. Listening to the professor foolishly describe dull prehistoric history had me wanting to grab the nearest pen and stab my ears, while an old tribal man sounding like a 20-year-old attempting to be 80 had me bursting into some form of depraved laughter. Even terrible anime at least contained a few redeeming aspects, but not Psychic Wars. This is a title worse than terrible. The soundtrack feels plagiarized from any 80s B-movie, while the animation and sound effects vary from poor to downright abhorrent. For an action movie, the scenes where Ukyo is actually fighting tends to be worse than anything else in the film. A significant amount of the choreography simply makes no sense, such as Ukyo flinging his head back and flying backwards in pain, while no attack even connecting to his body. The frame rate is often so choppy that it's difficult to even understand what is going on during the action scenes. Unfortunately, even the individuals with the fondness for the cheesy and low budget will find nothing of value here. Only horror and heads repeatedly connecting to the nearest wall. Psychic Wars is the abomination of an anime. It ranks at the very bottom with the likes of Mars of Destruction and Skelter Heaven, and some aspects even succeeding in being more nauseating. I would not even consider recommending this anime to any sane human being unless you hate yourself and wish to engage in mental torture. Being locked in a room with Psychic Wars play would undoubtedly turn any unfortunate soul comatose in a matter of hours. This anime is worse than cancer. Run away, never look back. It's 54 minutes. Psychic Wars. How bad could it be? How does he find shit like this, right? Yeah. Let's see, what else we got? 7, Hyoka, 8, Nisamonogatari, K-On! Movie. Nyaruko-san. Ooh. Okay, I watched this show for some reason, and it makes no fucking sense. So that's Cthulhu, by the way. Yes. Mahito Yasuka is an ordinary high school student. One day he's suddenly attacked by dangerous monsters and everything seems lost. He's saved by a silver-haired girl named Nyaruko, who claims to be a shape-shifting deity Nyaruntep from horror author H.P. Lovecraft's Cthulhu mythos. Sent by the Space Defense Agency to Earth, she explains to Mahito that the creature chasing him was an alien called Nightmot, who was planned on abducting and selling him as a slave. After rescuing him from the alien, the Lovecraftian deity falls madly in love with Mahito and forces herself into his household, much to his chagrin. Moreover, they soon joined by two others in the fictional universe Tsutsuko, a girl obsessed with Nyaruko, and Hasuta, a young boy easily mistaken for a beautiful female. The other three eccentric aliens protect Mahiro from various extraterrestrial dangers that threaten both his Earth and Earth well-being, as well as making his life a living hell. So, I don't know why I watched the first season of this. I don't remember a single aspect of it because it's a fucking mess. But there's a second season. I wonder, is it good? It's better. Apparently it's better. There's a sequel? Wait, a new OVA? 2015. Wow. This guy loves the OVA though. Alright. Here we are. In an age where media is thriving and the economy is stagnated and slowing to a crawl, there's often the question of product quality versus fuck off. Versus a more cost-effective approach. This holds especially true for the anime industry, where the bulk of the paying audience are exploitable and easy to profit from. There's a sizable amount of anime with a certain degree of integrity and quality is being held over the potential of large sales and numbers, and conversely there are shows where quality is disregarded and replaced by a number of efficient pandering methods. Unfortunately, Hayori Nyakuro-san is one of the latter. They're Cthulhu's, alright? They're Cthulhu's. They're H.P. Lovecrafts. I don't know. Like, I watched this show years ago. It was just fucking weird. It was just a mess. It's not because they were like Cthulhu's. It was just weird. The anime takes place in a world where deities of the Cthulhu mythos are secretly wreaking havoc on Earth, often having their horrifying appearance to the media replaced by that of a cute teenage girl or boy. After the titular Nyarlathotep arrives on Earth to save Mahiro from the sudden alien attack, she chooses to stay at his house after deciding that she loves him. This, of course, confuses our dear protagonist and gives precedence to his tsundere behavior. As the episodes pass, more deities begin to work their way into Mahiro's treasured and so-claimed normal life. The first of which is Cthulhu, a twin-tailed and obsessive bisexual incessantly chasing after Nyaruko and her body, much like Nyaruko does with Mahiro. Haster, who makes an appearance, a young boy who looks very much like a girl and frequently causes confusion to Mahiro as a result of that. Other characters include Mahiro's mother, secretly working as a deity hunter, and Gutanten, another deity in the form of a small girl that joins in the shenanigans in the final 2 episodes. Calling any of these characters interesting would be a gross overstatement. There are one-dimensional and stereotypical archetypes that do little except fulfilling the audience penchant for attractive young girls. Most of the interactions between them revolves around the same repeated jokes and situations used again and again, and not a single care for change. Nyaruko will behave in a forcefully lewd manner towards Mahiro, often involving sudden kisses or talks of marriage, and then he'll become angry and stab her with a fork. Cthulhu will go on to do most of the same towards Nyaruko, and she'll push him away because of her love towards Mahiro. After seeing this interaction repeated for the nth time, it becomes incredibly stale and tiring. It makes it really evident there is nothing going for the characters besides their physical appeal, and Zebek frequently exploits that and uses it as a way to catch the audience. In between all the awful character interaction, there's no abundance of superfluous otaku references. This includes dozens upon dozens of titles such as Back to the Future, Ichiko Mashamiro, Ashita no Jo, Dempo Onna, and Haruhi. Now, references to other anime can be amusing and add to the comedic value when they're implemented well, but that's very far from being the case here. There aren't just a few thrown in during each individual episode, but rather dozens of time in each, sometimes flipping from one reference to another in the span of about 15 seconds. There's no transition and little context, they just happen, repeatedly. What's most shameful isn't necessarily how bad or annoying these references can be. Mrs. Zebex hasn't apparently decided that comedy isn't even relevant as long as you make positive references towards shows that the audience may have enjoyed. You know what that sounds like? A Family Guy funny moment. That's what it sounds like right there. Just do a bunch of cutaway jokes. There's a point where it becomes funny, and then there's a point where it just evolves into frustration and pandering. The occasional anime reference can be quite nice, but in Nyaruko-san, it does nothing but infuriate and make watching the series an arduous experience due to the superfluous usage. Hayori Nyaruko-san is an anime that is all about the comedic sophistication of Hannah Montana and Meet the Spartans. Okay. For an anime that is constantly parodying other series and their tropes, it really makes you wonder when the same cliches and issues are present in the show itself. Hara member suddenly transfer into the same classroom as the protagonist. Characters decide to neglect their duties to go on a trip to the beach. The protagonist, the main heroine, mistakenly body swap with each other. and people walk in during inopportune moments and misunderstandings follow as a result. There's a glaring amount of cliches, and sadly they're the most important and genuine aspects of the series rather than simple parodies or references. If you're looking for anything unique or original in that regard, then you are most definitely not going to find what you want here. The only thing to set the series apart from any other bad harem anime is the addition of the Cthulhu mythos. That even this is mostly made irrelevant by how the story and deities are changed and bastardized from their Lovecraftian counterparts. It's an element that seems unique and interesting at the start of the series, but quickly fades from prominence in favor of fan service and otaku references. A pretty unfortunate fact considering the rich amount of content and depth found in the mythos. Much more value than this anime anyway. Oddly enough, the series is actually bearable due to the rare dramatic moments. When the terrible character dynamic is put aside and Mahiro and Yako think about how much they really like each other. It can actually be somewhat heartwarming, and the characters can almost verge on being likable. It's just unfortunate that these moments can't even be counted with a full hand. My screen is getting so orange that my eyes are dying. What the fuck? Oh man. Where am I? It's just unfortunate these moments can't even be counted with a full hand. Another minor positive can be attributed to the art, where the budget is modest and the anime quality is passable at best. The vibrant art style and color palette makes the show a lot more pleasing to look at than most. It's refreshing to see something that actually contains color when the majority of anime instead relies on dull hues of gray, brown, or blue. That said, you can polish a piece of trash, but it will always remain nothing more than trash. It's hard to determine just where the series went wrong. Perhaps the concept of the series was already flawed and doomed to failure, but a large amount of the blame can be shifted towards the studio and their insistence on pandering over quality. For people that are simply looking for a show that they can watch while turning their brains off, this is a poor, but not quite terrible choice. For the people who want something more than their entertainment that extends beyond endless fan service and otaku exploitation, Hayori Nyakudo-san is an insulting series with inherent value of amusing moments being next to nil. Somehow I think Cthulhu monsters might be less frightening than Hayori Nyakudo-san. Yes, I do have a nightlight, yes. I have a blue light filter that comes on between 9 p.m. and 7 a.m. But since the entire screen was white and then it flicked over to 9 o'clock, it slowly turned orange and my eyes were like not ready for it. Comedy is subjective. I really don't get why this anime gets so many bad reviews. Actually, I do. Alright, that's all I needed to see. Stopped reading there. Cardcaptor Sakura, that's a classic. K-On, that's a classic. K-On manga? Man gave it a 5? I mean, it's a 4-coma series. The anime does it much better. Because the thing about K-On! Is a music... It's music-based, but you can't do songs in a manga. So a lot of the presentation in K-On's anime adds to it like, insanely. I've read the entire K-On! Manga, by the way. I've read the whole thing, and I've also watched it. The anime does a better job portraying the Light Music Club because, again, it's anime. It's allowed to use music. Persona 4, the animation. You know, I'm actually kind of curious about this one. Oh, wait, that's his last review. Chat, that's the last one. This is the end of the road. 7.5. This is actually my first experience with Persona 4, was Persona 4, the animation. So I'm not going to read you the synopsis of Persona 4. However, there's going to be spoilers here because it's Persona 4. So if you don't want to be spoiled for this game that came out, like, a very, very long time ago, you've been warned. Alright, here we go. As a fan of the games, the Persona 4 adaptation is a real shame. It exemplifies everything that can go wrong with video game adaptations. Not only is it poorly done in respect to anime as a whole, but it's poorly done even compared to some other video game adaptations. I fully expect I'll get a lot of hate for this, so please let me explain first. The story is pretty typical for what you would find in most JRPGs these days, but one of the most unique things about the Persona franchise has been the blend between the dating sim-style day-to-day activities and the RPG combat. Most of the actions take place in a world hidden by all but a few lucky people granted the power of a persona. The manifestation of the person's psyche, which is used to fight shadows inside the TV world, while it's fairly generic and comes with its fair share of cliches, it works well because the story is self-aware and does not try to take itself too seriously. It's a fairly lighthearted story even in the midst of all the murders, kidnappings, and crazy things going on. There isn't any inherent problem with the story here because it's simply being taken from an already well-written series. The story was fine in the game, and for the most part it's fine here too. What there is a problem with, however, is the pacing. Now, to be fair, 25 episodes for like an hour-long RPG, or 100-hour-long RPG? The story, where am I? The pacing can be likened to teleportation. It is a disorganized mess of scenes abruptly changing from one to another with a calendar flashing for a few moments. No, the people behind the adaptation don't care about pacing. Instead, they use the calendar as a lazy excuse to not deal with coherent pacing. You might have the main character sitting at a table talking with the group for all of 30 seconds, and then the calendar will simply flash on screen, skipping past several days and taking you to a completely different scene with almost no link or correlation to what just happened. Sometimes the days flash by so fast you don't even know where the hell is happening anymore. Sometimes you have to have a dungeon given 3 episodes entirely dedicated to it, and another dungeon will have less than half an episode. It makes no sense. He's right. He's right. The calendar system and the day-to-day activities worked fine in the game, but this is not the game. It does not work here and it does not fit. This is an anime, not a video game. And the people behind the anime should at least try to make sure it translates properly into a condensed, strictly visual form. You can't simply take the game and then slap it into an anime. You need to make adjustments. You need to make changes. You need to make sure it fits the medium that you're adapting it to. The staff on the Persona 4 adaptation don't understand this important philosophy. It instead feels like they're awkwardly trying to recreate the feel of the game, but failing pretty miserably at it. I feel like I was getting a headache at times trying to follow the constant warping of the characters. So if you haven't played the games, don't expect to understand much of what is going on. You will probably be lost and confused and miss the pacing, especially with important plot points and characterization just skipped upon and barely explained. There really needed to be 2 seasons of anime here because it's clear as day how rushed it is. Unfortunately, that's not the only problem here. Both the animation and the art style are also poorly done. There's a strange lack of color throughout the entire series, which is odd given how colorful and vibrant the game was. Each character is drawn poorly in color with an ugly-looking gradients, something that would have been expected from a high school computer animation class, not a commercial product created for thousands of people. It's all very bland and amateurish. There's also a startling lack of animation here. One character will have their mouth flat while every other else in the background is static and motionless, often complete with disproportional faces and odd expressions, looking stupefied. For lack of a better term, it's very derp. Even when there is a decent amount of animation happening on screen, it's usually done poorly and glaring mistakes in between movements. Usually body parts morphing into strange shapes. Either they were lacking budget or something went horribly wrong in the production of the anime. Either way, it is some of the worst art and animation I've seen in a mainstream anime. For all the years it took to get a series to get a proper anime adaptation, when it looks as poor as this, well, was it really worth it? On the plus side, the music is very nice, and the remixed and new tracks are greatly appreciated. It helps to spice up things a little bit from the game, though there are problems even here since the background songs will abruptly switch from one to another with complete dissonance and shifts in tone. The music itself is good, but the application of the music is not. Instead of awkwardly switching between musics all the time, the staff could have opted to just use silence or ambient noise from time to time instead, and save the music only for the scenes where it truly fits in. It should feel natural, and here it just stands out in a really unpleasant way. I like the kanji theme in the anime, though. Sadly, there just isn't much good I can say about the anime. There's a few brief moments of hilarity scattered here and there, and while it's nice to see all the characters fully animated, the entire time I was watching it just made me want to go replay the game instead. A good adaptation wouldn't make you want to do that. The anime is nothing more than fan service for people who have played and enjoyed the games, and even as fan service, it fails in pretty major areas. Maybe other people will enjoy it more than me, but Persona 4 deserves so much more than this. My first experience with Persona 4 was watching the anime, and then I went on to play Golden. I also played the entirety of Danganronpa 1. I watched the anime adaptation of the first season, and I was just so... I don't know why I even finished it, dude. I have no idea why I finished it. It was not good. It was so rushed. It was 12 episodes, and they had to fit in 6 cases. It was too rushed. Well, chat... there you go. So, at this point, I'm open to suggestions. Do you know of an anime that is not good? Do you know of an anime that is not good? And we can check out the reviews of those not good animes? I appreciate the reviews I've read, but I've reached the end of it. You know what? Let's check out Danganronpa. Why not? Spoilers, by the way. Danganronpa 7.2? Ha. Oh yeah, here we go. Right here. This is a perfect example of a video game adaptation done wrong. Trying to fit about 25 hours of material into 13 episodes is not a good idea unless you want an extremely rushed show with very flat characters. It is horrible. The story was actually pretty decently adapted. While it was rushed, nothing very important was omitted. However, I have some issues with the investigations. How do you expect anime watchers to identify the culprit if the most important part is mystery solving is rushed in about 3 minutes? Rushed investigations also made it seem like Kirigiri and Naegi were pulling things out of their asses during trials. This is another thing. Class trials. There were 13 people in the first class trial. Everyone had to speak at least once, right? So once again, the actual mystery-solving part was rushed. Though, as the show went on, there were fewer students, so the trials did not feel as rushed. Chapter 4 and 5's trials are the best examples. Still, this just proves 13 episodes only was not enough. Next is the art. The character design is very odd, but it makes the characters look colorful and very different from one another. You can pretty much tell who had what talent just by looking at their appearance. Komosasaki really did not drop the ball design-wise. However, the animation quality was subpar. Some episodes had okay animation, some terrible. The amount of stills also hurt, but acceptable. Generally, the class trials are good animation, but the rest, investigation and pre-investigation segments, took a huge hit. I like how they kept Monokuma's small quirks in the background, though, like eating pancakes after a particular execution. Another good thing is the soundtrack, composed by Takada Masafumi. The music is very catchy, and it really sets the mood in most scenes. A prime example is in the song named Distrust, played during Big Revelations. Absolutely perfect. I don't dislike the OP theme, but the game is way better. The ED, however, is pretty awesome. Personally, I love the 8-bit part of the beginning. The voice acting is very well done, as expected of big-name seiyus. Monokuma is especially perfect for the role. Now here comes the bad part of the anime. The main reason why I did not enjoy the show as much as I thought it would. Character. In the game, characters are mainly developed by hanging out with them. As you hang out with them, you learn more about them. That is where they get development. And since the anime completely skips hanging out, there is nearly no character development for the whole cast, with the exception to Kirigiri, Togami, and, to some degree, Naegi. This is a bad thing because when a character dies, it is hard to feel anything because you cannot get attached to them, and they make some twists feel pretty underwhelming. In the end, the Danganronpa anime made a few good points, but it was severely crippled by a lack of character development, a very limited number of episodes, and that is why I did not enjoy the anime very much. Makes sense. What is Pupa? What is Pupa? Nice PV3, by the way. What is Pupa? Pupa. 3.31. Oh, wait, I know this show. This is the show about the girl who turns to a monster and, like, eats her brother, right? Abandoned by their abusive parents, only each other to depend on, siblings Utsusu and Yume Hasegawa find themselves led astray by beautiful red butterflies that appear in their world. Unbeknownst to them, the Crimson Wing Heralds trumpet the beginning of a cannibalistic nightmare. A mysterious virus known as Pupa is about to hatch. After succumbing to the full effects of Pupa, Mumia undergoes a grotesque metamorphosis to a monstrous creature with an insatiable desire for flesh. Utsusu, on the other hand, is only partially affected, gaining remarkable regenerative powers instead. Reaffirming the resolve to keep the promise he made to himself years ago, Utsusu is willing to sacrifice everything in order to be there for his precious little sister. Pupa tells the story of a loving brother's desperate struggles to save his sister while protecting the world from an uncontrollable hunger. That's got a 3.31. Oh boy. Oh boy. We got a lot of reviews here. These are not good. When I first heard of Pupa, it seemed rather interesting and worth looking forward to. Based on the horror manga with the same name, Pupa tells a story about two orphaned siblings who only have each other to rely on after severe domestic violence. However, one day they are both infected with the Pupa virus, which turns the younger sister into a grotesque man-eating monster, while the older brother Utsusu gains regenerative abilities. This is, to put it bluntly, an exciting premise, and Pupa appear to have all the elements to make a memorable horror anime. While there had been mixed opinions from those who read the manga, I figured that at the very least it would make an experience unlike any other in recent years. What I personally found to be noteworthy was how Pupa appeared to be a complete opposite of the recent brother and sister relationship trend in anime that often danced around incestuous undertones. Here we would have, instead of the older brother who had to sacrifice his own body to satisfy his little sister's cannibalistic hunger, rather than a cheerful outlook, it was cynical, one full of dread and hopelessness. Ironically, much like a cruel joke, it was the actual anime adaptation itself that became full of hopelessness. You see, Pupa was originally announced in early 2013, yet all buzz around it quickly faded due to a lack of news. Months passed, and finally a vague air date was revealed, the fall anime season. Eventually, the fall anime season approached, however, Pupa was nowhere to be seen. The staff apologized for the delay and announced the series would instead air in the winter anime season of 2014. At this point in time, there were also some bad rumors floating around mentioning how Pupa would be a short 5-minute anime and not actually full length. Uh-oh. 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 To make the story even more difficult to follow, Pupa suffers from heavily censoring for no obvious reason. It's also incredibly inconsistent, sometimes censoring a mere knife with letting loads of guns pass, and often covers the whole screen with sensor beams, effectively destroying what little there was left of the actual horror. Oh, I skipped a line, sorry. Today, we all know the result. Indeed, Pupa ended up being only a couple minutes per episode. As you might understand, this is a format that makes the actual horror atmosphere a disservice. It is impossible to create a proper, eerie atmosphere with such little time, especially if the story is to move forward in a reasonable manner. Speaking of the story, it is nothing but haphazardly told nonsense. It jumps from one event to the next with little or no explanation and ends in the middle of nowhere. Exactly to who is Pupa aimed towards? Fans of the manga will be disappointed with this mess of an adaptation, while anime viewers will be utterly confused. I cannot come up with a good explanation myself other than that this is the worst anime I've ever seen. Marketing skills. -10 out of 10. I want to read this one too. Little can be said about Pupa that hasn't been said already. It combines some of the more icky fetishes together into one clusterfuck, but this censors itself and fails to even entertain those few individuals it was aimed at. Imagine if the human centipede or Salo was censored down to a PG-13 rating. What the hell would be the point of watching? The brilliant plot? The splendidly written characters and dialogue? There is nothing left of value. Marketing, -10 out of 10. Let us do a little math. Let us say hypothetically that 1 in 1,000 people have a sibling incest fetish and 1 in 100,000 have a cannibalism vor fetish. I don't know. You know what? I'm not gonna touch that. Assuming these unusual fetishes are independent events, the number of people who with both a cannibalism and a sibling incest fetish, the target audience of this show would be a whopping 1 in 100 million people. The global population in 2015 is 7 billion. So the target audience is 70 sick motherfuckers on the entire planet that would actually enjoy this show. I fucking hope those 70 people are happy, because we other 6,999,999,930 people are not. Plot. -N out of 10? I'm gonna eat you up, Oni-chan. Oh yes, little sister, please eat me. Chomp, slurp, moans of pleasure. Rinse and repeat for 12 goddamn episodes. At least each episode is short. Art, 2 out of 10. As mentioned above, the bright lights of censorship prevent this from even having the macabre fun of a cannibal holocaust. I'm convinced that everyone involved with the production simply hated mankind. Overall, 1 out of 10. What a piece of work is a man. How noble in reason, how infinite in faculty, in form of moving, how expressive admirable, in action, how like an angel, in apprehension, how like a god. The beauty of the world, the paragon of animals, and yet to me, what is the quintessence of dust? Man delights not me. Everyone after watching this series. I enjoyed those marketing skills. 70 sick motherfuckers. I like this guy. What's he got? Let's check it out. Literature nerd. Sunny boy. Let's see. 385 reviews. Holy shit. Alright. Let's see. Shenmue. Super Mario Brothers. Peachy make your Sensei. I'm looking for the ones that are low rated. For the bright future of Japan, I shall take your semen. We're not gonna worry about that one. That might be pornography. 5. He didn't finish it. I cannot trust a review that he did not finish. You have to finish it. If you don't finish it, I cannot trust your opinion. I'm looking. Here's one. The hell is this? On November 23rd, 1957, the whole world witnessed the Federal Republic of Zinditria Monument achieving or sending the first live animal, a dog, to outer space. Since then, the space race between the Confederacy and its competitor, the United Kingdom of... But that's a vampire. Has intensified. The two countries hope to send its dog's biology is inherently, it's no way to perfectly identify the risks of space travel. This government is experiment on... What? This biology is similar to suits. Despite being forced to take for a home in the mountains, Luminous shows numbers of secret training. What? What the fuck? Arena, the Vampire Cosmonaut. Just trying to let you know it's going to be a weird one. I went in having absolutely no idea what to expect, but I was still somehow disappointed by this one. I'm going to be honest and upfront, this isn't very good. Brought to you from the director of Cutie Honey Universe and a first-time writer, this is an alternate history version of the space race told through the perspective of the Soviet Union. Isn't that literally just the plot of Royal Space Force? Gainax already did that shit in 1987 during the Cold War. Arena adds one more new element to the formula by adding vampires. What do vampires have to do with space exploration? Absolutely nothing. However, Arena wants to preach a message about racism and does so in the most tone-deaf and competent way possible. She's a fucking vampire! When we first meet the vampire girl Arena, she's being used as a test subject by the Soviets. She has fangs and must sleep in a coffin, so you would think the portrayal of vampires will be somewhat traditional. Instead, we learn that vampires don't have any magical powers, they don't attack humans or drink blood, they're just a hated and oppressed ethnic minority who happen to have fangs and sleep in coffins for no reason. During the bubonic plague, vampires were falsely blamed for poisoning wells and were hunted down in pogroms. After that, the vampires lived in isolated communities for over hundreds of years. Many racial myths and negative stereotypes were created about them. This is seriously the route the anime goes in. They basically just made the vampires a stand-in for Jim. Let's not start off with this at all! Oh my god! We're told that the vampires are just a harmless minority early on, but the same researchers who tell us that they still hate vampires for no reason is completely okay with killing them in medical experiments. In the world of Arena and the leading Soviet officials, most of the scientists still believe medieval era myths about the vampires for some reason. Myths that our semi-educated person would have stopped believing centuries ago in the world where vampires are real. This would be like in our world if all the Soviet Union's top scientists in the 1960s believed that the Jews are horns and they were all that's why they wear yarmulkes. What the fuck is happening here? What? Despite showing the space race from the Soviet POV, this anime is Red Dawn levels of anti-Soviet. Every Soviet character besides Nice Male MC Harem Lead is an evil bastard. They want to use Arena as a guinea pig and make her the first person in space, then kill her and send an ethnic Russian into space. This is not only stupid, but incredibly tasteless and insulting to the first cosmonauts who risked their lives for human progress. Why would you shit on some of the greatest heroes in history? The answer is simply to tell a monster girl story. Remember Monster Musume and how it tried to have the shoehorned anti-racism message? Only the MC is nice to the monster girls, while everyone else is ridiculously horrible to them. Elfenlight is also kind of guilty of this, admittedly. Would be fine in a purely fictional setting, but Arena goes out of her way to use real historical figures where only one letter in their name is changed and directly reference real historical tragedies like the Netherlands disaster in 1960. It wants the audience to think this is basically a one-to-one retelling of the space race, only Soviet minorities have been replaced with monster girls. What the fuck is this show? This is especially problematic since the CIA ran a propaganda campaign in the 1960s that the Soviets constantly went through cosmonauts like tissue paper and only achieved historic first because their cruelty threw away the lives of their explorers. To back this up, an Italian plant produced fake recordings of Soviet cosmonaut death screams that he somehow recorded off of ham radio. These were later found out to be forgeries. It's absolutely true that the Soviets rushed frantically to achieve their goals and covered up two high-casualty events that were only discovered later, Netherlands being one of these. Unsurprisingly, the Soviets were not purely innocent. However, they didn't constantly go through cosmonauts, which they were highly impractical considering the time and resources required to train them. The Soviets also never put a self-destruct bomb in their landing capsule in order to prevent the Americans from discovering the easiest part of space exploration and killing their own guys in the progress. They also didn't use fatal medicinal experiments on ethnic minorities. On the other hand, NASA was very confident about survival data such as the exact time humans can survive in zero pressure. That's because NASA has some pretty bad dudes working for them, such as notorious war criminal Hubertus Stronghold, a man whose best friend was executed at Nuremberg for doing the same experiments. While the Soviet Union did a lot of bad things during its history, the Soviet space program was one time where they're actually the lovable underdogs. They used their own scientists, unlike the US, who kissed some of ASS and made a deal with the devil in order to win. The Soviets started from behind and had a small fraction of the money and resources, but miraculously achieved some of the finest feats in the history of engineering. Yet here we have an anime that wants to repeat propaganda from the Cold War, completely ignore all wrongdoing by NASA, and portray the Soviets as stupid, brutish monsters. Also, it can tell a Monster Musume-style love story. Fuck this anime. When it isn't being clumsy and totally pointless propaganda, Arena does have some sweet moments. If you like Monster Girl stories, the romance between Arena and Lev is serviceable. There are some sweet scenes here and there, like Arena going ice skating where the anime is allowed to be kinda good. The show also makes a last-minute decision to reveal some of the Soviet scientists were good guys and have them rebel against the Kremlin. So in the last episode, it's decided to not character assassinate Sergei Korolev. The source novels aren't actually finished, by the way, so this was an anime original ending. Whoever wrote the anime at least made a last-ditch effort, and I'll give them credit for that. I even raised my rating by 1 based on the last episode alone. Sadly, as a place exploration story, Arena isn't really that good. Really isn't very good. It's not even comparable to an anime like Royal Space Force or Space Brothers, both of which are excellent. Space Brothers, by the way, is phenomenal. The Monster Girl romance detracts from the space focus, and the series often veers either intentionally or throughout sheer ignorance into pretty hateful territory with the historical portrayal. As a Monster Girl story, it also doesn't work because it's weighed down by its need to tastelessly reference real-life tragedies like the Netherlands launch failure that killed around 300 people. It's not quite as bad as when the writer of the Sonic comics tried to tell a one-to-one Holocaust parallel with overly sexualized echidnas, but it's... I need information. What? What did he just say? Sonic fans? Where are the Sonic fans? Where are the Sonic fans? That happened? That happened. That did happen. What the fuck? It was Penders. Oh, I mean, did he do that in a story, or did he do that by taking all the rights to his characters? Oh my god. So would I recommend Arena? I'm going to have to go with no. I thought the premise was unusual enough that it has some potential. I don't normally watch seasonals while they air, but Arena hooked me with its bonkers plot alone. As I've covered in this review, the execution leaves much to be desired. It's possible a lot of the problems present in this 12-episode anime aren't quite as bad as in the LNs. If I've not read them, so I can't say who is to blame for Arena's issues. Unfortunately, this rocket never quite achieves orbit. That was a weird review. Like, it's not like it was bad, but like, that was a fucking roller coaster. At first they came for the quote. It's one of the Sonic comments was a reference. Oh my god. Oh my god. Toilet no Hanako. Oh, you can't. Nope. Nope. Stop. Stop. You can't. You can't. Why do you... Wait, is that... Musco 10? Oh, that's that one. Thank God all the naughty bits are censored on the itty-bitty thumbnail piece, so you can't see it. The only thing you need to see, Chad, if the rating is good, you can check it out on your own time, alright? Check it out on your own time, not my time. Kobayashi. Princess Tutu. Mujaki no, I've seen a lot of bad anime. Hold on. Ecchi, this is... Hold on. A non-hentai ecchi OVA. Okay, I can check this out. I can't go any further than that. Whatever that is, I can't read anymore. No. No, 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 no. Nope. Nope. Set up a backup. Nope. You see that? You see this? You see that? No. No. That's as far as I could go. No, thank you. I learned too much today. That needs to disappear. Remove. Forever. Oh, God. What is this? What is this? Oh, no. Oh, this one. The one about this one. I watched this show. This is a show about a girl who joins a fucking virtual reality MMO and finds, like, ridiculous defense equipment and just becomes unkillable. It's really silly, but I enjoyed it. Anyway, let's see what, I want to see those shits on it. Scrub Lord, how I learned to stop trying to get good and embrace the cheese. That is what I should have named this anime. Bofuri is an anime that is set up just like any other isekai. A boring protagonist becomes obsessed with some shitty RPG that works through some incredibly advanced virtual reality. We know that soon she will get stuck in an RPG world and be told that she'll die in the real world if she dies in the game. We've seen this 10 million times before. But wait, she doesn't actually get stuck in the game. In fact, there are absolutely no stakes at all. The anime was recommended by a friend as one of the most pointless animes ever made. After watching it, I have to agree. The anime is literally just watching a Let's Play in which a no-talent, filthy scrub uses OP scrolls to cheese her way through a poorly balanced game with an unearned reputation for difficulty. Would you like to spend 6 hours watching a Twitch stream of a ditzy girl abusing Dark Souls 3's questionable balance system? That is what this show is. The ditzy girl chooses Pyromancer, pours everything into faith and intelligence, and just raffle stomps every boss in the game with OP spells like Crystal Soul Spear, Grand Chaos Fire Orb, and Black Fire Orb. Doesn't that sound like something that warrants a 12-episode anime adaptation with a budget? I don't understand what that means, but I assume that's crazy. Despite both of these simple and admittedly kind of stupid premise, Anime can have a simple premise and still work. One Punch is about a normal guy who becomes the world's strongest superhero, but he's so OP that every fight is a bore to him and that all his fellow superheroes are rendered completely worthless. When I first watched Bofuri, I thought it was going to be an isekai version of One Punch Man, with the whole joke being how OP Kaede is. However, this isn't really a comedy series. Bofuri is a cute girls doing cute things anime that on a rare occasion is a comedic moment. So now that I was really realized it's not a comedy, we have to ask ourselves why this was made and who was it for. My immediate guess is that Bofuri was made for thirsty male gamers who want to imagine having a hardcore gamer girlfriend. However, it doesn't actually feature any fan service whatsoever. The main girls are drawn very flat and aren't ever sexualized. There's no romance in the series. It doesn't cater to any weird fetishes or anything like that. So maybe this is actually meant to be a relaxing anime for gamer girls? Nope, Bofuri is classified as a seinen, which means it is in fact intended for older men. As someone in the seinen demographic, I honestly cannot imagine why people think this anime is good. I think my favorite running gag in the series is Maple killing difficult bosses by poisoning them from a distance and getting praised for it by hardcore gamers. If you want to troll gamer forums, go tell a bunch of Souls fans that you were clever enough to poison False King and land the last boss of Demon Souls to death and fish for compliments. They will get mad because the way Kaede plays is always the exact opposite of how a respectable gamer is supposed to tackle these types of games. So if Bofuri isn't a comedy or a fan service show or an action show, it must have great character development, right? Kaede must start out with some character flaws she has to overcome, or she has to learn how to make friends and get along with others, right? Well, no. Bofuri is a show about level grinding montages, moe garbage where nothing happens, and then tournaments that Maple/Kaede win by being OP. There are no real character journeys in Bofuri. There's no overarching plot. When I said the series was just a bad Let's Play, I wasn't exaggerating. Bofuri is a monumental waste of time. Sword Art Online gets a lot of shit, and we can all see it's a flawed adaptation of an imperfect light novel. However, it wanted to create a protagonist that could inspire lonely young men. It wanted to create a wholesome romance that author was calling out for shitty female characters. He actually took feedback and tried hard to get better. Sao was a pioneering light novel that hundreds of others ripped off and even today is still beloved in Japan. Bofuri is none of these things. It wasn't a daring series. It never tried to in any category. It's like the anime equivalent of a shovelware game that gets thrown onto Steam in order to trick a few suckers into buying it. Bofuri makes Sal look like the Godfather. The only reason I didn't give it a lower rating is due to the animation from Silver Fox, which is honestly pretty decent. The series looks far better than it deserves. Eventually, season 2. You know what? I watched the show and I enjoyed it, but I understand where he's coming from. I understand where he's coming from. Alright. Odd Taxi. I can't tell what that is. Chimera. Oh god. I don't know what that is either. One episode. Shingeki no Kyojin. 4 out of 10. Oh, that's the manga. He didn't read it all. Invalid. Give me some more. Yosuga no Sora. Oh my god. Don't worry about that one. Don't worry about that one. He gave this one a 10? My girlfriend has requested I review this artistic masterwork from 2004. Like, I want to read it. What? Oh. What? I don't want to read it. No, I don't want to read it. No. Oh, that's redo of Healer, isn't it? Oh, this is review of Healer. Yeah. Ugh. The definitive magnum opus of the Japanese anime industry here. Eva who? Shingeki no what? Redo of Healer is unironically one of the best shows in recent memory. It's not for everyone. In fact, it's probably not for most people. That's fine. It was for me. You only like Redo because of how edgy it is. Well, you're not wrong. Oh my god. This has to be a joke, right? Oh. That's gotta be a joke review, right? Surely that's a joke review. Oh my god. I haven't written many seasonal reviews this year. I slept on Mushoku. Slept on Promised Neverland Season 2. I slept on the glorious X-Arm. I will not sleep on Redo of Healer. This is one I absolutely had to review as soon as it finished. I gave this a 4 because Redo of Healer is dog shit, but it is also hands down the most entertaining anime of winter 2021. I'm dead serious. So exactly what kind of idiocy are we in for? In case you aren't aware, this is a certain subgenre within the wide world of isekai. These are the isekai like Shield Hero that spawned from massive success of Mushoku Tensei in 2012. Is Sword Art Online too feminist for you? Are you sick of progressive concepts like consent ending up in your anime? These are the anime for you. These are pure power fantasies for a market of young, angry single men. These series absolutely revel in the level of political incorrectness even by Japanese standards. Mushoku is proud to be pro-pedophilia. Shield Hero is proud to be pro-slavery. To be honest, I don't actually mind this at all. If these series serve as a healthy outlet for frustration and anger, they are doing a good thing. I may not be the target audience, but not every piece of media is made for everyone. It's perfectly fine for media to sometimes be exclusive. I worked at a Walmart in Tennessee and easily sold about 500 PureFlix movies every month. I am not offended if a movie is made specifically for straight, white, evangelical Christians and everyone else is going to have a bad time. Sure, it would be, of course, it would be an issue if there is that with every movie, but that doesn't mean we should take the opposite extreme and try to erase 100% of those movies. Everyone deserves a movie or a show that's made for them. Sometimes we all want to feel comfort, acceptance, and recognition that we don't have to work for. Strongly disagree, but let's continue. So where does Redo of Healer fit into all this? Honestly, I'm not even sure. Redo of Healer takes this reactionary power fantasy so far that it becomes an absolute joke. At certain points, I was entirely convinced I was watching a juvenile satire. In other words, a show that wanted to make fun of these types of isekai by exaggerating their faults. People generally like Naofumi from Shield Hero and Rudas from Mushoku. Kyaru is completely unlikable by design. There is no twisted worldview where he is a good guy. He is a force of chaotic evil who happens to be torturing and killing lawful evil because they harmed him. We can laugh our asses off when he casts a spell on his dick to make himself iron hard and slap a princess in the face. However, it is impossible to see Kyaru as a decent person. Just in case the audience ever gets close to sympathizing with him, it gives him a maniacal laughter and clear-cut villain speech where he proves that he doesn't care about saving anyone and solely cares about himself. He was fully willing to poison and massacre an entire city simply to gain a sex slave that he can manipulate and commit statutory rape against. When a villain tries to massacre a city to draw him out, he just sat there and watched the massacre happen. Only when a merchant he happened to sort of like was killed did he decide on a whim to save a few survivors. When his favorite restaurant was massacred, he didn't care about the people. He decided to summon a giant bull and have it rape the killers to death in order to avenge the food. Kyaru is best described as 10% Leilu, 20% Shield Hero, and 70% Kefka from Final Fantasy. He is a broken man that has been driven insane by years of torture, drugs, and rape. Now he exists solely to dole a hilariously over-the-top punishment on all those who have wronged him. I've argued with several friends on Mal over whether or not Redo was a satire. There are plenty that believe it to be actually genuine. The original light novel author is simply that depraved. However, I would argue that Redo Healer is so ridiculous that it doesn't even matter if the original author intended it to be serious. The director of the 2006 Wicker Man remake intended for it to be a serious and disturbing film that he made as a critique of modern feminism. Nicolas Cage said it best: when you make a film in which a man dresses up in a bear suit and runs around punching women, you've made a comedy. Redo of Healer can only be classified as a comedy. It's not really revenge porn because it isn't erotic. The sadist who would be satisfied with Kyaru summons 3 ogres to rape and eat an evil lesbian to death will instantly lose his chub when Kyaru bursts out a half rack of baby back ribs to munch on and tells her to spread her butthole more. I don't think it's clinically possible to get an erection watching this show. The total whiplash is simply too intense. Redo of Healer is a comedy, just like Top Gun is a community cult classic, and Dolomite is a comedy and not a serious kung fu film. At a certain point, it doesn't matter if it's entirely intentional or not. Interestingly, this makes Redo of Healer far more inclusive and broadly appealing than Shield Hero or Mushoku. You don't need to be male to enjoy this show. You don't have to be straight. You don't need to be a virgin with rage. All you need to have a ball with Redo of Healer is a dark sense of humor. This is the worst show I've ever heard of. Holy shit. I'm not going to spend much time covering the plot of the show because the plot honestly doesn't matter. Rito is about a sad little twerp who gets tortured for years by a team of evil knights who are bent on global conquest. However, the sad sack is actually an evil genius who's formulated a ridiculous revenge scheme. In the first episode, he uses a magical MacGuffin and goes back in time to take advantage of his absurdly OP powers and inflicts suffering on all his enemies. So how is he so powerful? Allow me to introduce you to the moronic magic system in this anime. Healing powers are considered a cursed gift because you must relive all the memories of whoever you heal. That means experience all their pain and suffering. This also means that Kyoto can duplicate the spells and abilities of anyone he has healed because he has their memories and knows how to do it. Here's why that's so stupid. Kyoto never exercises and isn't in good shape. He hasn't conditioned his body at all, yet he's able to run at superhuman speed and has superhuman strength simply by having the memories of great athletes. Just because you theoretically know how to run doesn't mean you're as fast as Usain Bolt. A doctor with poor hand-eye coordination can know exactly how to perform a surgery, but he still won't be able to do it. He also doesn't have an abnormally high level of mana, but can cast S-tier spells because he knows the basics of how to do it. Kyoto's power is either intended to be a joke, or the authors of the L is a complete moron. Honestly, it could be either from what I've seen in the man's interviews. However, Kyoto's bullshit power is one amazing upside for the viewer. Every single spell in existence is activated by the incantation Heal. This means that every single battle in the show is Kyoto just screaming heal, 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 heal ad infinitum. I can't describe how funny this becomes after a few episodes. All credits goes to Kyoto's amazing voice actor. If that man ever comes into my town, he will never have to buy a drink. I will pay his bar tab for life. Should you watch Redo of Healer? If you can appreciate dark comedy and want to laugh at something stupid, I absolutely recommend this one. I'm a little sad that I can't bring myself to rate it higher, but it's a pretty lousy show on art and technical level. Definitely bring this title to your next bad movie night. You will be laughing until tears stream down your faces. Shame on Funimation for adapting the Virgin Mushko and not dubbing the Chad Redo of Healer. This should be seen and enjoyed by as many people as possible. Holy fucking shit, dude. Oh my god. That's the kind of positive review of a shit show I'm looking for. That was funny. That was mad funny. Phantom Requiem of a Phantom. I have no idea what that is. Huh. What is this one? Nice audio click. Mafia is rife. That's how Mafia works. His review... Hey, look, it's Jun. His review is not good enough to be up there. It has to be on the main page. It needs to have good reviews. Holy shit. What are any of these? Uh-oh, can't have that. He's got so many reviews in here. I think a lot of them are just... Alright, I'm gonna move on. Yeah, I'm gonna move on to, what do you call it? Actual, like, search ones now. That's funny. I enjoyed. I enjoyed that. I gotta sneeze. Alright. Oh. Any other recommendations, Shot? Oh, my nose. Soul Eater not? Oh, it's the first one popped up. 5.9? The fuck is this? It's a spin-off and side story. Takes place 1 year prior to the Soul Eater at the Death Weapon Meister Academy. Humans born with the power to transform into human. Yeah, okay. Oh, it's you again. It's a spin-off. Minor spoilers ahead. Alright, well, somehow I'm back here. Minor spoilers ahead. What is Soul Eater not supposed to be? Is it a Yuri slice of life made to appeal to people unfamiliar with the original Soul Eater, or is it a necessary part of the Soul Eater canon aimed at those who enjoy the action and drama of the original series? The answer to that question remains a mystery. I'm not even convinced the author of the manga understands what he's working on. Soul Eater not is an exercise in mediocrity. It is a gust of wind for no particular destination. By jumping from genre to genre and trying to appeal to both the slice of life crowd and fans in the original series, it ends up pleasing neither. The end result is something that, while not offensively dumb, lingers in the mind with no more than passing apathy. I doubt anyone will remember its existence after a year. Even half of that time might seem generous. The first few episodes were promising enough. It didn't seem like it would make any impact in the industry or do anything particularly interesting, but it was fun nonetheless to watch the banter between the innocent protagonist Sugumi and her two companions, Meme, I think Yui from K-On!, and Anya, the Tsundere Ojo-sama. The unique setting of the Soul Eater franchise even gave not its own distinct identity. The see it indistinguishable slice of life. And hey, it did its job just fine in the moe department. There's no drama, no deep themes, underlying message. That was okay. For the first half, Soul Eater Not was actually a fairly decent slice of life anime. And then everything turns upside down in the 7th episode. The main three are off shopping, fooling around as they always do, and then from nowhere comes a generic villain who attempts to murder one of the side characters in gory fashion, throat slicing and all. Alright then. What's supposed to come as a shock instead brings confusion and frustration. It almost feels as if the script was suddenly hijacked by a different team of writers. There's no consistency, no purpose in this except perhaps for a vague thought of, well, I guess it's time to add some drama as the Soul Eater fans don't get bored. In reality, all this was accomplished with both sides of the audience being alienated. The melodrama is guilty of more than just existing. It is terribly written. Every scene reeking of some eye-rolling cliche, even the accident at the end of the 7th episode is written off as inconsequential. The story awkwardly shifting back into Yuri comedy just minutes into the next episode. The drama itself is so boring that falling asleep becomes a more exciting prospect, because hell, how are we supposed to immediately empathize with characters who previously only used for gags and fan service? After trudging to the predictable one of the main characters who now possessed by evil cliche, the final episode treats the viewer with a full dose of stupid. Said character comes back to reality with a kiss, and the group then defeats the powerful villain, who they did not have the combat ability to even defend themselves against, with the indomitable power of friendship. Please, I want to puke. Among Not's many issues is its clumsily written romance. The 4th episode is Tsumugi falling for Akane. Akane, one of the few male characters, merely because he threw a few suave words her way. It's never explained whether Akane feels anything for Sugumi, and of course, nothing ever comes from the romance either. It's actually completely forgotten by the next episode. I guess one way of explaining it would be that the manga's later chapters are meant to focus on the two's romance, but even that shouldn't be completely discarded and brought up against whether the author feels it's convenient. It's doubly awkward since the author doesn't even know whether he wants to pair Tsumugi with Akane or one of the two girls. It haphazardly alternates between heterosexual romance and Yuri. All it just feels very out of place, a lot like the drama. On the plus side, there's plenty of cameo appearances with the cast of the main series. They don't add more than a few lines of dialogue here and there though, so don't expect another adventure with Soul or Death the Kid. I suppose it's always neat to see what they were doing behind the scenes. With regards to the sound and artwork, Soul Eater Not does not offend the eyes and ears, but it never hits any high points either. It looks okay, it sounds okay, the only issue is that the unique paint-like style of the main series is missing here. So those who enjoyed Soul Eater for its visual design will be quite disappointed. The opening theme is pretty nice though. It's overwhelmingly cute and mirrors the fluffiness of the anime's first half. The OP is almost like a glimmer of hope in the show's unpleasant final episodes. It's difficult for me to recommend Soul Eater Not because, well, who would I recommend it to in the first place? Soul Eater fans will be bored with the Yuri of the show's first half. Slice of Life fans will be frustrated with the tiresome melodrama of the second half. Critics, well, maybe if they enjoy yelling at their monitor. Soul Eater Not is an anime that doesn't really please anyone. It's not quite awful, but it also exerts no effort to be more than just a passing, colorless breeze. It's the kind of slow that comes and goes every single season. It's destined to fade away, lonely and forgotten. Nice. Alright, chat, give me another one. Give me another one. That wasn't so bad. It seems like the show just kind of like existed for some reason. I don't know much about the original Soul Eater, because I hear Soul Eater's pretty good, but then I never gave it a chance because the way the anime ended was not good. But I guess the manga's good. Only 117 chapters? That's very easy to crank out in a weekend. Huh. I might read that. School days. Ugh. There it is. 5.55. Do I really need to explain to you what school days is? I sure hope not. Well, chat, which one? We got two here. We got a rating of 4 and we got a rating of 3. What do you think? The one with the 3? Alright. I don't know, I like this one. This anime exists for opening pickle jars. That sounds pretty good to me. Alright. Let's see. This review contains spoilers. School Days creator, SDC. Hey man, I have a terrific idea for an anime series based on this dirty animated game I played. Japanese executive, JE. Okay, I love hentai. Let's hear it. Well, it goes to be about a guy who is a complete failure at life, an idiot loser who is intensely selfish. He gets uncontrollably nervous talking to girls and does nothing with his life. However, the twist is that every girl who meets him falls madly in love, and he has sex with all of them. What's his driving motivation? To fuck as many girls as possible, regardless of how many lies and betrayals necessary to get there. Okay, but wouldn't the girls eventually catch on? Even if at first they love him, wouldn't they dump him at some point? I mean, realizing your girl or boyfriend sucks and is a cheater is something millions of people in the real world go through. Well, that's true, but I have just a plan to fix it. We'll make the girls equally odious and retarded. We'll have some degree of human compassion, but along with that, a large dose of crazy and whoredom, as they gladly cheat with their boyfriend of one of their female friends. Oh, you mean like my second ex-wife cheated on me and my former best friend? Yes, exactly. One will be the reserved, kind-hearted girl named Katsuda, who upon realizing her boyfriend is a cheater, too cowardly to break up with her, becomes a catatonic, deranged puppet of a human being. Isn't that extreme? I mean, if Katsuda were a guy whose girlfriend was a cheating piece of shit, wouldn't go insane and make the viewer hate such a character for an unnecessary psychotic reaction, not sympathize with them? True, we need the viewer to side with her, as no one else will be the least bit worthy of compassion. That's why she'll be drawn very cute and sexy. That's why we have every other girl in the series utterly despise her, even if there's no actual reason for them doing so. That's why the other main character, Sekai, will betray and sleep with the main character, Mokoto, behind Katsuda's back. Sekai will at the first seem sympathetic and even kind, helping Katsuda and Mokoto to be together, but eventually she'll turn selfish, soulless, and moronic, and she initiates makeout sessions with Mokoto while he's still dating Katsuda. Then she'll be surprised that someone who cheated with her then starts cheating on her, haha. Okay, but what kind of series is this? You mentioned a lot of moronic, pitiful girls sleeping with a moronic, pitiful guy, and betrayal and insanity. What's the hook here exactly? That's my master stroke. School Days will, for most of its 12 episodes, be a straightforward romance series, but then in the last episode or two will turn gruesome and bloody. But wait, isn't that just a cheap plot device to make up for how bankrupt the characters and the rest of the story are? Isn't that just a shock tool to distract the viewer from the fact that they just wants to brainless romance series based on a hentai game? That's right! But what we'll do is try to make it seem as deep as possible. You know, like foreshadowing, great music, random flashbacks, all that jazz. Then if people still criticize it, we can just say they don't get the deep story and moral of the series. You mean like that Dosetsuki novel. Except with none of the actual logic, death, or basically anything redeemable about it? Exactly! And one last brilliant idea. Well, right now I'm still not convinced about the show, but go ahead. The series will double as a cell phone advertisement. Everything will happen via cell phone. It will be a huge part of numerous plot devices and episodes, and we will even have an ending theme prominently featuring one. If we can't get any more blatant, let's have one of the girls excitedly want to buy the latest brand of cell phone for herself and Makoto for no apparent fucking reason. Hell, let's have the chibi versions of the characters hawking oversized cell phones during the parts reserved for commercial breaks. It's brilliant. Utter genius. Get it done. Yes. I followed none of that. I followed absolutely none of that. What happened? Let's read this one. This review contains spoilers. This anime is great for one thing, which I truly believe it is the sole purpose of existence, opening pickle jars. This anime will help you with opening the jars and various other tasks requiring brute strength. You'll feel like the Hulk after you've watched half the series. And the very reason for all this is the anime's amazing ability to piss the viewer off like no other I've ever seen. If you want to be angered, please watch this series. Story. Jokes aside, this anime might be considered a decent series to other people, but I seriously hated it. It started off fine, a few laughs, a somewhat interesting love triangle between Makoto, Katsuda, and Sayonji, resulting in the typical idiot girl helps guy she loves to get another girl thing, but hey, although the whole love triangle story wasn't very unique or anything, it entertained. It was fun at first to see this clueless pervert fail at getting a girl. The problem was when it became more of a love hexagon and things went downhill from there. The story became predictable and difficult to watch due to the idiotic, ridiculous main character, who must have been the luckiest sped to walk the earth. The only good thing I can say of the series is the theme it presented to its viewers to cherish what you have. 1 out of 10. Characters. The characters in this anime are seriously some of the dumbest people I've ever seen, Makoto especially. After watching about 5 episodes, I wanted to smash his face in. His idiotic expressions, his whiny sped voice, Everything about him, I hated it all. I hated the way he looked, the way he talked, everything he did. My hatred for this character is unparalleled to any other character I might have ever hated in my life. The only props I can give to the people who dreamt up this character was that they got to see him go from a selfish idiot to a selfish asshole by the end of the series. That ran out of the way. I don't have much to say about the other characters, which is mainly composed of idiotic girls that for some reason or another can't get enough of this whiny-faced idiot. The characters in general didn't have much of a background. We didn't learn much about them in the past, and they just kind of came and went. Again, my only props here is the character development, 1 out of 10. Sound, the opening sounded great, but it didn't really suit the series considering how dark and idiotic it became. The opening was way too happy in contrast to the story, otherwise BGM was decent, even good at times. No big comments here, 8 out of 10. Animation, character design. I thought the animation and character design was pretty good. One of the series' stronger points. All of the characters' designs, although not unique, were nice, and the colors brought out the mood fairly well. The only character design I grew to hate was Makoto's. His round, clueless face pissed me off to no end. 8 out of 10. Overall, why is this even an anime series? I have no idea. Just turn this damn thing into a hentai or something. Honestly, the main character in the series has sex with pretty much every girl you'll see in the series for no apparent reason. The girls are just lining up to be with him by the end. The characters are the most idiotic people I've ever seen. The main character couldn't possibly be fathomed by a normal human being. 4 out of 10. Good show. Yes. Yes. This is the show that its finale got postponed because it went for a shock ending, and around the same time that it happened, an actual incident involving that actually did happen in Japan. So they filled the time slot with just footage of a bay. So for 20 minutes, it was just a boat in a bay. So people were like, "Yo, nice boat," and then it turned into a meme. All right, anyone got another one? Give me something a little less infamous, but still good. You know, give me something good and stinky, but less like notorious. I don't like that title. That title worries me. I feel like I'm gonna type it in. I'm gonna get 3-dayed. Chargeman Kent, that's infamous, dude. That's so infamous. You know what? Let me look at a show that I despise. Let me see. Is it wrong? That's the 2nd season. This show. I fucking hate this show. 3, 2, 7. My people! My people! Alright. Alright. Alright, take it from the top. There are times you get a reminder that no matter how many swords, boobs, and magic you throw at a show, you can't save it from the boring characters among it all. Welcome to the world of Dungeon Need Deal. Daroka, where strong personalities are obviously illegal and main characters are inexplicably attracted to women. A 13-episode fantasy story put on the screen by JC Staff and based on the light novel Danmachi can at times be an enjoyable experience if you shut your brain off. Action is served up in droves, but in an equal share comes a bland cast and a study that doesn't exactly shout originality. Why are we getting to season 4 of this show? I hate this fucking show. We follow the journey of Bell Cranel. That's right, that's his name now, Cranel. Bell is an adventurer who goes forward to the dungeon to seek fame and glory while putting their life on the line to do so. There he encounters the talented and renowned sword princess Eyes Wallenstein. Suddenly, he's love-struck with the help of his goddess Hestia. Bell sets out to conquer not only beasts, but also his fear of approaching girls of his dreams. The girl of his dreams. I'll put my positive first. This is that show that doesn't dwell on things too long. Bell makes progression at a ridiculous rate, but at least events keep coming and every event feels fresh in some way. Different enemies provide a new challenge. Some of these enemies remind Bell of when he was weaker, and it brings some painful memories. He has to overcome these grim reminders that apply that new knowledge he's learned to beat his enemies. Also some force and to change up his technique and get creative. For all of his terrible harem schlock, it's at least nicely paced adventure. Some of the later episodes have some more interesting fights with more, it's just some crystals on the line. The cast also expands a little bit at that point, definitely to the show's benefit. At that point, it really starts to feel like we're watching something interesting come together. There's also the sense that Bell is really fighting for something he wants and not simply hacking at things for no reason. That's where the praise comes at the end of this department. Here's the problem. Bell doesn't truly earn anything in his line of adventuring. Everything that helps him become stronger is either served to him on a silver platter or overcome through some ridiculous newfound level of power. Yes. Fucking yes. Ugh. At this point, where am I? There are certain attributes Bell has rendered pretty much unbeatable and given an unfair boost from all other adventurers. With that, you say goodbye to almost all tension the show creates within the dungeon. If something does hold Bell back, it takes no time for him to find a way around it. Some methods he uses to do so are so out of left field and not properly explained. When an explanation for them does arrive very much out of the blue, it comes at a ridiculous moment. While it does excuse a lot of Bell's powerful capabilities, his double-edged sword, the plot armor simply stacks higher on him. An early scene posits Bell as the runty adventurer who can't achieve anything, and then you get the sense that this is going to be a tough rise through the ranks. But before you know it, he's making a name for himself in the field quicker than you know it. Why? Because the power of love, which as we all know is far stronger than any physical material. How touching. Why couldn't his romance simply be a driving force in something that literally has his capability to bolster his stats? Yeah, it's fucking stupid. Characters. While the story has redeemable moments, it's actually decent to re-listen. The characters reduce the show to a mess on many occasions. Let's start with our main man. Bell is just another run-of-the-mill anime MC. He's just there. There's no background to his character to at least give us an idea of why he wants to take up adventuring in the first place. He's an example of the play-it-safe approach to the characters. By stripping him of any hard-hitting character faults, he gains likability, but at the same time becomes a lot less interesting. There's also the pint-sized goddess Hestia, who has a bust size and a temperament trying to outdo each other in volume. As annoying as her character can be, at least her affection for Belle compared to the rest of the female cast actually makes sense. Belle is her only familia member, so it's understandable that she's going to be a little clingy. The writers play up this fact that to the point where it starts degrading her character. Hestia goes from someone looking for validation and purpose to being a paranoid stalker. A very, very annoying paranoid stalker. Top that off with an abundance of ridiculous fan service involving her in a great way for me to stop taking a character's problems seriously. At times we get a peek into seeing a different side of her, but it remains hidden in the shadows, presumably for that inevitable second season sometime down the track. If only you knew, my brother. If only you knew. It would also have been nice if the girl Belle desires so badly eyes actually had some semblance of personality that makes her a worthy target of his affection. I guess she's a blonde, green-eyed beauty in questionably designed armor who can swing a sword well. Sure, she's got it on the front, but the show never once makes me feel like it's worthwhile being the end goal of our main character, even taking into account the fact she's helped him out before in some tough situations. In defense of eyes, she at least isn't going completely head over heels for our white-haired friend, but in the face of that, she still feels like a soulless background object. Don't get me wrong, I don't want a character study out of a show about fighting beasts in dungeons and leveling up. You'd not be of sound mind to want that. I just want something entertaining with a cast I really want to cheer on. More personality and overall likability could have been breathed into this group. My problem was only made worse by the fact that every piece of comedy missed the mark. Considering it makes up a large portion of the show, you can imagine my frustration when some comedic intervals just dragged on and on. Summary. If you value strong, interesting characters, then this isn't for you. If you value the creation of original ideas and environments, then this isn't for you. If watching a cardboard cutout, danger-immune, overpowered main character whose presence makes every female he encounters flood the vicinity and juices of excitement while living with the 4-foot god with a breast size that has the second half of the alphabet in its sights, then this is for you. The more people keep dishing praise on shows like these, the less encouragement we give studios to adapt exciting and challenging material or creating interesting original works. I guess what sells, sells. Danmachi isn't remotely close to the worst show I've watched, but it brings absolutely nothing new to the anime table. There are less memorable moments in this series than the world in its own title. It'd be nice enough to say that there was a brief moment where I did sit enough and give it some attention. I can see why other people can enjoy it for long periods than myself. There's flashy fights and some nicely animated sequences that even got a cynical man like me to sit up and say, yeah, that's alright. The story isn't going to blow your socks off, but it never drags. The action keeps coming, and the show rarely sits down for a breather. However, I feel like a lot of the purpose of the world is kept locked away from us, which got on my nerves. This character's pulling the strings from shadows, but even as the show comes to a close, we learn almost nothing new. I can't stop hacking away at the show for a moment when it comes to the art department. With a JC staff anime, you know you're at least going to get some well-polished art and decent animation. Fights have plenty of impact and punch thanks to the combination of sound and debris. You can really feel the weight behind every sword swing, fist flying, and rock scattering. The fight are clearly the show's strong point, and the technical side of things have gone a long way to achieve that. Some may find entertainment in the fight choreography a very fair point, but with a particular outcome always feels certain that I can't put myself in that boat. There's virtually no interesting complications character-wise. There's catering for every character trope imaginable. There's fan service ready to leap at you from every corner. For everything that Danmachi does right, it seems to do two other things wrong. Is it wrong to pick up girls in a dungeon? I still don't know, and I don't know if I want to hang around longer to find the answer. I certainly don't. The easiest way to sum up what is it wrong to pick up girls in a dungeon, or Danmachi for short, was eloquently put by YouTuber Demolition D as Sword Art Online Fat Fucking Titties Edition. Who am I to argue with such a flawless summation? There is no question about what Danmachi is. It's otaku pandering, self-insertion, video game-inspired Ellen adaptation. The real question lies in whether you will love it for what it is or hate it for what it is. In case you haven't guessed by now, I fall in the latter category. The shallow, ridiculous, and remarkably unoriginal work is a good example of everything wrong with anime today. Thank you, Link of Hyrule. Holy bollocks. Alright, let's go. Let's go! Synopsis. Bel Cranel is an adventurer, someone who explores dangerous dungeons and fights monsters for a living. He and his goddess, which is basically a glorified manager, Hestia, makes up a small familia in all the land. This is the story of Bel winning every fight he's ever been involved in one way or another, making every girl he comes into contact with fall in love with him despite his obvious lack of charisma whatsoever, and gaining special abilities that nobody else can use for no discernible reason. In other words, it's your standard Ellen adaptation. Danmachi's plot is what you get when you take Sao's plot and crank it up a notch on the pandering scale. More fan service, more blood, larger harems, more white knighting for the protagonist, douchier side characters to make the protagonist look good in comparison, and of course, less actual substance. It's seriously like someone looked at this already stupid Ellen video game formula and said, how do we make this even harder to take seriously? But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's start with the first reason Danmachi's plot is bad. Plot armor and melodrama. Much like a battle shonen, it is painfully obvious in any video game Ellen adaptation that the MC is never actually in any danger. However, the show spares no expense in convincing you that he is using the cheapest tactics possible. Last second saves? Check. Ass-pulled power-ups? Check. Deus Machina? Checkaroonie. The entirety of the plot consists of Bel and other main characters being put in perilous situations that even the most naive of viewers can recognize will be resolved smoothly at the last second, over and over and over again. It's bad writing, it's repetitive, it's not entertaining. It's at this point in this review that I realize there are so many things wrong with the show that I don't even know what to talk about next. This may be a bizarre order to do things, but now let's talk about Bel Cranel, the protagonist. Dear God, what an annoying, insufferable, shallow, cliche, Gary Stu self-insert, awful character. I like this guy. When you talk about characters who might as well be literally Gandhi, you can go ahead and put this saint at the top of the list. Nothing, and I mean nothing, would ever cause this guy to do something wrong or immoral. People can betray him, steal from him, assault him, whatever. He just takes the abuse like a proverbial Jesus Christ and instantly forgives all wrongdoings. After all, they wouldn't want to give up the impression that he is human or anything. Real people don't have flaws or negative emotions, right? It's so much more interesting to have an idealized concept of all that is good in the world without an ounce of moral ambiguity so that otakus can fap to fantasies of the hundreds of sex objects that flock to his holy cock. That was the best sentence I've read all night. That was the greatest sentence of all time, even. Wow, that's one for the books. Oh, and you better believe that he has a special abilities that no one else in the world, entire world has. It's not enough that he is the most righteous organism on planet Earth, but he also has a super special power that enables all of his skills to be as high as they possibly can, and enables him to level up faster than anyone else who has ever lived. Now, I want you to guess the explanation that they give for why this makes sense. This is their genius explanation for why Bel has the one-of-a-kind ability that makes him the most special person in all the land. Because he's in love. Oh, that makes perfect sense. Fuck. I mean, just fuck. I won't even question it. In conclusion, Bel sucks. Moving on. Unfortunately, the trend of shallow, awful characters continues with the rest of the cast. Let's start by addressing the elephant in the room. Hestia. Fucking Hestia. Just why? I must be the 10 billionth person to ask this, but what the hell is the obsession with her? She is no different than any other one-dimensional big-boobed harem fodder. Nobody in a slutty outfit that allows us to instantly identify her as a sex object, as if we wouldn't have figured it out anyway. The absolute best description you can give about Hestia is that she functions as comic relief, and I don't even think she's very funny. That brings us to Lily, the other one-dimensional sex object who occupies the lolly, furry, and tortured fetishes all at the same time. Impressive, writers. Very impressive. Fetish writers around the world will have to come up with an answer to that. Maybe is she also a robot childhood friend? Anyway, I'm not even going to mention the rest of the harem since they are completely one-dimensional and indistinguishable. Let's also go over the nameless side characters. I feel the need to bring attention to the fact that Bel is the only adventurer in the entire world who is not a tremendous asshole. The villain adventurers have no depth at all, of course, but they are still made out as such blatantly awful people in order to further drive home the fact that Bel is Jesus. Not only is that this lazy characterization, it's also blatantly black and white morality, which makes the show require even less thought. This is one of the worst character casts since, well, Sword Art Online. Let's also take a moment to discuss how incredibly creative the monsters in this show are. Danmachi brings us such breathtaking and original monster designs such as a bunny, a wolf, a minotaur. Oh, and who could forget the floor boss? Literally a titan from Attack on Titan. I didn't get to that episode. Truly masterful creativity from these animators. It's clear that a lot of work went into this show. This is the paragraph where I plan on talking about how misogynistic the show is and how distracting the constant fan service is. But do I really need to give you that whole spiel? I already briefly talked about this stuff, and I feel like it's so obvious why these aspects of the show are flaws that I shouldn't need to explain it. Women with the obedience and dedication of slaves and no complexity whatsoever, it's every otaku's dream, and that's precisely why this show is going to make a ton of money. I could keep going, really, I could talk all day about what an awful portrayal of the basic fundamentals of writing this show is, but I think you get the idea. The reality is a lot of people are going to like this show. A large percentage of anime fans are not all bothered by anything I just mentioned. Because of them, a self-insertion work is all they need. That's fine and dandy for them, but from my point of view, the show is all shows are like it are cancer. Danmachi is the antithesis of the clever and intelligent shows that made me become a fan of the medium in the first place. It's a brain-dead, effortless advertisement for the LN that ends incomplete. If you like SAO or any other similar LN video game adaptation, you'll love Danmachi. Everyone else, stay away. Far, far away. You wanna know what Hestia looks like? That's Hestia. That's literally all you need to see about that character. There's one more review down here, though. Holy shit. Alright. I'm gonna conclude it on this one. These are all pretty highly rated, all things considered. Is it wrong to pick up girls in the dungeon, aka Danmachi, aka Dungeon Harem, aka Lolly Big Boobs, aka The Misadventures of Brestia, aka My Brestia Can't Be This Cute, aka Not Sao? Is the latest anime to follow the video game trend that has become increasingly popular within the anime medium. These video game type series, usually MMORPG based, have gotten so commonplace in the last handful of years that they started to form their own subgenre altogether in a similar fashion to the moe cute girls doing cute things craze in the mid-2000s. With an easy premise to understand, little to nothing to comprehend story-wise, and a turn-your-brain-off level of entertainment value, Danmachi was tailor-made for mainstream success, but whatever integrity it may have had was lost somewhere in the creases of blue boob ribbons. If Maslow's pyramid were ever accommodated to show the level of quality a title holds, Danmachi would presumably fall somewhere in the lower segments. This isn't to say that the show doesn't retain some sort of value, but in the bigger scheme of things, it's as significant as the crusty end slice of the loaf of bread. Brief synopsis. Set in a world that functions and operates like an MMORPG, we follow Belle Cranel, residential pussy protagonist and one in many self-proclaimed adventurers that strive to become the best of the best. These adventurers are aided by gods/goddesses who descended from the heavens to live among them. With one god or goddess being the leader, many adventurers join them to form a guild, or of modern-day standards, they're essentially a gang. After a chance encounter with another adventurer named Eyes No Personality Wallenstein, or better known the world over as the Sword Princess, our protagonist is motivated to become a better adventurer, if only for a chance to woo her over in the future. With the aid of his goddess Lolly Big Boo Hestia, he sets off on his journey to do just that. Despite what the paint-by-numbers premise would have you believe, Danmachi doesn't seem to understand the construct of its own narrative. Beyond just meeting regulatory standards, the actual story and content itself never quite mesh. It tries to tell a coming-of-age tale, but our protagonist is never shown going through any of the proper stages of character progression usually associated with this kind of narrative. Instead of seeing him make mistakes to later learn from them, all of his conflict can be overcome by the writer's splooging out Deus Machina at every given turn. His advancements aren't earned through hard work and determination, but are simply handed to him on a silver platter, making him yet another chosen one figurehead whose nuts haven't dropped, yet finding himself winning every battle like he's the spawn of Guts and Chuck Norris. Why rally for a protagonist if the outcome is always the same? Why portray him as a struggling newbie when he's merely going to gain powerful abilities and weaponry without any foreshadowing towards it? The show quite literally writes in a new power-up every episode. No, I'm not kidding, see the spoiler section below. So by the time we're at the halfway point, he's practically outpaced most of the seasoned adventurers set in the same world. This could have been done in a more believable fashion had they given any sort of proper explanation behind these events, but Danmachi makes no attempt to do so. It shrugs off all accountability and goes back to dangling boob strings like the set of shiny car keys to keep the audience distracted from the underhanded ploy taking place. What the show What the show does have going for it, however, is the setting itself. The world of DanMachi doesn't waste time debuting its features. With a medieval, high fantasy-inspired architecture, it creates an interesting subculture of being anachronistic with an implementation yet obtuse concept-wise, since gaming mechanics are treated as much of a central pillar as its Middle Ages inspiration. Since the game aspects are as much of a part of real life to the inhabitants of DanMachi universe, it's quite easy to buy into the world from the get-go. There's a weird amalgamation of game physics and natural world properties that the show fully embraces. It's grounded in our universe but slightly left of center, given that game stats and leveling up is treated with the same sense of normalcy that gravity is. This includes adventurers that have to kill monsters to generate income and possibly to keep regular civilians safe. When they defeat these monsters, gems are left behind from their carcasses, similar to most MMORPGs. And while the world mechanics and how when they defeat these things function were never explained in any reasonable amount of detail, the implied base knowledge that many viewers would have been going in is how these games work made it feel suitable despite its tendency to underwrite the parameters of its fantasy elements. Does the prospect of killing monsters and taking gems out of their hide from a line of profession make sense? Well, no, of course not. But was it fun? Yeah, it sure was. For an anime that borrows its world functions from video games, DanMachi accomplishes what it set out to do. It didn't place any further foresight on how the macroeconomics of the world operates, but that's fine since no one was expecting to do so in the first place. What I was expecting, however, was better pacing, to be more specific, pacing that wasn't the equivalency of the show trying to belch out the alphabet in one episode, in one breath. After the introductory episodes, 1 to 3, in which the show maintained a steady pace, it then began to rush through plot points and character introductions at breakneck speeds, where we are initially given a few episodes to establish the person's backstory, personality, and motivation. The show later attempts the same kind of effort in just one episode. It's as if the show had planned for 2 cores and was later informed by the studio heads that they canceled plans for the second season. And in a state of panic, the creators condensed everything into a screenplay into whatever scheduled episodes they had left. It's jarring to say the least, doubly so when plot points are whizzing by without any proper setup or payoff. Shit just sort of happens. But what did have staying power was a pair of underage sweater puppies, the kind of visual eye candy that's predestined to overshadow the rest of the characters involved. The characters of DanMachi is of your garden variety, with many having indistinguishable personality traits from other shows. Our protagonist, Belle Cranel, is your typical dense Bishoten beta male who always strives to do the right thing, the kind of Boy Scout character that you just want to strangle repeatedly for his unrealistic amounts of idealism. And like most protagonists of this ilk, he too has the uncanny ability to attract every female character in the series for no real reason whatsoever. But he isn't the one that the show would be remembered for. That honor lies with Hestia. In the same way that Yuno Gasai is more popular than the show she's a part of, so too is DanMachi's mascot, Hestia. Infamous for her boob ribbon, Brestia has become the subject matter of many fan arts, sending man-children the world over clamoring for their body pillows. With a bubbly personality and an extreme infatuation for our pussy protagonist, she's ideal power fantasy material for anyone that chooses to self-insert themselves into a show. The only death found here is the endless cleavage birthed from her unnaturally huge milk jugs. I appreciate how many different ways these anime reviewers can talk about boobies. I gotta say. I appreciate the sheer vocabulary that they're dishing out here for this word. I've lost myself already. Where was I? A character whose only purpose is to serve as someone's 2D desktop waifu, but even this cheap trophy wife model offers more to like than the show's designated love interest. Eyes Wallenstein, the girl of Belle's perfection, does not compute emotion. With the personality of a brick wall and the combat ability of a one-man army, she's mostly just an idolized Mary Sue placed in the story to be Belle's object of admiration. Outside of that, her non-presence has made her nothing but a goal for Belle to reach. The rest of the cast is mostly forgettable tag-along members that fall into one of 3 camps. A, another female for Belle's harem. B, another female for Belle's harem. C, Welf Crozo, the one-trick pony. Similar to how underbaked the character writing was, the production as the whole also underperformed. The presentation of DanMachi is a mixed bag of passable to awful. There are moments where the show boasts decently choreographed action scenes that get you pumped up, only to follow by the jarring CGI monsters and choppy animation. This lack of consistency could be contributed to JC staff's workload, as they're also adapting Shokugeki no Soma during the same period they worked on DanMachi, which could have resulted in an improper allocation of manpower. The art, for the most part, was appealing, with suitable color choices that made the landscape and characters pop. The peppy tone in which the characters moved and carefree dispositions how the world was colored to life helped compensate, the other departments failed. As far as the soundtrack was concerned, there isn't much to say. The opening theme is your standard J-pop track, far from distinctive when placed in the crowd, easily be replaced without making much of a difference. And like most medieval fantasy shows before it, this too has very standard soundtrack, use of all the bells and whistles you'd expect from something trying to portray that period, that basic Celtic music and pub-in setting and those usual orchestral choir sections during fight scenes. It's all very standard, but they're basically Danmachi in a nutshell, a show trying to portray things it can't fully grasp when coming off middling because of it. Spoiler section. Because of the erratic pacing and contrived plotting, every other character in Danmachi has the main character receiving a power-up of some sort. First, we find out that he has unlimited potential. In other words, he's a borderline overpowered beta male. And then only 2 episodes later, he's handed another powerful item that he never earns. By the 5th episode, he gets a book that conveniently teaches him fire magic. If that wasn't enough, he gets an ability to KO any opponent as a last-ditch final attack only a few episodes later? And this trend of gaining a new advantage never stops either, happening all the way up to the very finale of the show, robbing the purpose behind even creating a coming-of-age story. The show actively fights against the idea of earned rewards, and to put the icing on the shit cake, we find out he's a demigod as well. As if being plot-armored and overpowered wasn't enough of a buffer. I hate this character. I hate this character so much. And then there were introductions to people that amount to nothing at all. For example, characters like Welf Crozo was given a backstory, motivation, and character introduction within 1 episode just to serve the role of a plot device. A character whose entire purpose in the narrative is to be Belle's blacksmith, yet is marketed as a defining side character, despite the rush job to indoctrinate him into the group. This isn't just an isolated incident either, as every character introduced after the 3rd episode mark is simply pushed off an assembly line with no time given to even let the archetype that is their paint to dry. So at the end of the day, you're not watching this because there's something to offer, you're watching it because there's nothing else to do. End of spoilers. Going into Danmachi, all I expected to get out of was easy consume entertainment. That's precisely what I got. Because of its simplistic story and surface level depiction, I never fully felt frustrated watching it since the show never gave me a reason to care to begin with. With Danmachi, what you see is what you get. It's a show that isn't trying to be more than what it is, and it's honest about that. And while that's a commendable attribute, it just isn't enough to be anything more than just that. It's easygoing content that offers nothing else when it's all said and done. Danmachi is an intermission title you want to watch before your next must-watch series, an anime that will forever be remembered for a pair of lolly boobs than it will be for anything else. Oh. 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 Adaptation? Sequel. 7.2. Episode 1. That's it. 3, 5, 9. Season 3. 7.4. 9, 4, 1. Jesus Christ. 4th season. How does the show keep surviving, my guy? How? How does the show continue to survive? I don't understand. Oh, man. Alright, chat. There you go. I've done it. I've completed another 2 hours of this. What have I learned? I've learned more than I think I needed to ever know in my life. I think I need to bleach my own brain. I could use some brain bleach. 100%. But I'm I gotta stop it here. Some of those were great. Some of those were fantastic. Some of those were a lot of fun. And then some of those, I have to wonder why I read them. But there you go, chat. Mal reviews! There will be more in the future. But, it's not going to be an every Saturday thing. I'm mostly just doing it alongside the Toho tier list. But, if you have any ideas or suggestions for next week, I'm open to them as well. Otherwise, I'm probably just going to look at things that I've watched before. And look for the reviews that call it Stinky Butt Butt. Because almost every series has a review that calls something to Stinky Butt Butt. And those are the fun reviews. Because I like to know why you think the show is bad, more than I want to know why you think the show is good. So, yeah. Next week.